A lot of the deals that we look at just don't stack because you're taking such a haircut on the affordable stock. The HA are most likely to cap out at around about 80% of market value in terms of the offer that they can give you for that stock.
I've had a lot of developers that have packaged something up, agreed a sale, and then they've sort of Michael Jackson moonwalked out of the transaction.
When we're selling land, we often look somewhere between like 30 and 37%. Nowadays, because build costs have escalated so much, that percentage is being squeezed down. We've been looking at some slightly bigger schemes recently. As soon as you start getting above 10 units, that is a full planning process, you're going to venture into the world of affordable housing. It's not something we've really had to deal with when we've done the likes of Tame, which is 20 units, the old Maltings, which is 23 units. A lot of those have been done under permitted development. So there's actually no affordable housing requirement, which is one of the benefits of doing commercial to residential properties under Class MA permitted development. But we're now looking at some slightly bigger schemes. We've got a MOT garage in South London that we're looking at, and it's a different way of approaching things because as soon as you get over those 10 units, which is where the affordable housing criteria kicks in, it really is a different kettle of fish, and we weren't necessarily completely sure how to be analysing these types of deals. And some people out there that's gone through this process will say, well, there is an affordable housing viability assessment that you can do, so if there is an affordable housing contribution that is really killing the deal, you can then get third-party surveyors involved to prove that it isn't viable to construct X amount of affordable housing on site or provide £200,000, for example, of off-site kind of contribution. It's a way of reducing the amount of affordable homes that you have to create on site by doing that viability assessment. And that's fine, but you don't want to get all the way through the process to run the risk of trying to reduce that contribution amount, because by that point, you've already probably bought the site, you've spent hundreds of thousands of pounds getting to that stage, and it's just too risky to get that far down the line without actually having a concrete understanding of what your affordable housing contribution will be. So I'm going to run through some of the top things that I've learned, having spoken to a couple of affordable housing specialists. These people are out there to help guide you through the process. They have really good connections with registered social landlords and HAs, housing associations. And the idea is that you package up your development and say, I have got 30 units in this location. Here are some active housing associations in this area. You present the case to them. You tell them what effectively your package price needs to be. But if your package price is basically, they generally split things down into two. So you've got the land price, and that's the price that they're effectively buying the land for. And then you've got the build stroke development price. And what that normally means is they'll pay you for the land, X amount, and then you as the developer would deliver the build contract on their behalf. So they kind of forward fund the development costs. How this works, basically, what the feedback we've got, if we were looking at the site on a market value perspective, and let's say the site was worth £20 million on open market residential values, typically what happen is that the HA are most likely to cap out at around about 80% of market value in terms of the offer that they can give you for that stock. Now, a lot of the time it will be more like 75%, sometimes even less, depending on the actual asset that you're providing, the location, their needs in that area. But let's take 80% as an open market value. So if you look at that, £20 million on an open resi market, if you're factoring that into your costs, and then you're told that actually the HA will only offer you 80% of that for a 100% affordable site, so you've lost £4 million in GDV effectively. So this is why as soon as you go over that 10 unit threshold, a lot of the deals that we look at just don't stack because you're taking such a haircut on the affordable stock. Now, if you've got a mixed scheme and you've got 30 units whereby 15 of them are private and 15 are affordable, you still get 100% market rate for selling the private stock, the 15 private stock. But the 15 units that are affordable, the package deal for that is more likely to be the HA paying you 55 to 60% of the market rate for those 15. So when you blend it all together, you still get to that 75 to 80% of what the open market value would be, which is why it absolutely kills deals. And that's why the viability assessment process is brought in. The land value, we learn typically the maximum percentage of that package price for land is about 30%. So the HA is often only willing to pay 30% of that package, not 30% of private GDV, it's 30% of that package price, which I explained earlier is sort of the land plus the build cost contract. On an open market sale, it's probably not far off, a GDV from a private resi sale. When we're selling land, we often look somewhere between like 30 and 37%. Nowadays, because build costs have escalated so much, that percentage is being squeezed down. But that's the figure that we were given, 30% of land value, maxing out at 30% of the package price. What you will need to consider is the build contract is the people that I know that are developers that work work in the HA space have their own internal contracting arm. So they're making a developer a contractor margin more so. But the difference is it's forward funded by the HA via various grants from Homes England and various other places and the HA. So your risk is far less. The issue that we've seen from the likes of, I know Dorian's talked about this in the past during COVID, for example, where you're locking in that package price at X value and build costs ramp up significantly straight after you signing up that package price, you are locked into the build contract at the lower value. If your costs escalate significantly, your margin is getting smaller and smaller and smaller to the point where you could end up paying for the build yourself because the build costs have escalated so much. That's a potential risk. Most people see it as a de-risked way of doing things because it's forward funded. You've got a guaranteed exit. As soon as the units are finished, it hands straight over to the HA, and that's why it's, from a risk perspective, far less than private resi sales. One thing that was really interesting to note is that the contractor requirements for a lot of these HAs, if you're signing up to a £12 million build contract, then they will expect the contractor delivering that scheme to be about 4 times the build contract amount. So if you're building a contract of £12 million, they would expect just under a £50 million revenue type business to be delivering that. So you can't really get your mate and his 5 gang of builders down the road to sort of start delivering those schemes. It has to be a good tier contractor that's going to be delivering those bigger schemes. Other big important implications are to do with VAT. I hate VAT. It's the bane of my existence. Still don't really understand how it works. But fundamentally, if the site the HA is effectively buying and forward funding is elected for VAT, they will expect you to build on what's called a golden brick process. Normally what happens is the HA, you agree the package price, you agree the land price, you agree the build price. If there is no VAT included, they can release that land price and pay you that land price from day one. If there is VAT on the land purchase, they can't give you the land value until you have demolished the site, built the foundations, and laid that first brick, which is that golden brick. And that's when the VAT implications change. So that's something really important because the VAT could be massive on these types of schemes, and the HA aren't going to pay you if there is VAT elected on the asset.
I would also just add to that, from my experience, just speaking to some other developers, when you are packaging it up to a housing association or to an affordable housing arm, make sure you really seek their commitment. I've had a lot of developers that have packaged something up, agreed a sale, and then they've sort of Michael Jackson moonwalked out of the transaction, and it's a huge pain in the ass because you might have spec'd it for that particular affordable housing provider, and they don't exchange, they don't do commitment fees, so you've got to rely on a lot of actually them performing. So you just don't want to waste time. They're not the most enterprising of outfits, so they're not get it done, make a decision, only 3 people need to speak, it's a big consortium, they need to make a mutual decision between the trustees or whoever it may be, or the charity leaders, or even if it is more of a commercial outfit, the board. I've heard pains before where people get to the last knockings and pull.